This bizarre Star Trek TNG Season 6 episode worked way better than it had any right to. For a series celebrated for its philosophical depth, diplomatic nuance, and cerebral storytelling, Star Trek: The Next Generation has its fair share of episodes that feel, at least on paper, absolutely ridiculous. Strange alien hallucinations, time travel anomalies, body swapping, psychic energy beings. TNG did it all. But one episode from Season 6 stands out as the kind of story that shouldn't work at all, yet somehow becomes an unforgettable, strangely brilliant entry in the franchise. That episode is Rascals. Yes, the one where Picard, Guinan, Ro, and Keiko get turned into children. And yes, the one where a gang of Ferengi hijack the Enterprise and somehow get outsmarted by those same de-aged Starfleet officers. Objectively, the premise reads like something beamed in from an early 90s Saturday morning cartoon. But the magic of TNG lies in the fact that even its most absurd concepts can become insightful, emotional, and downright entertaining. Rascals should have been a disaster. Instead, it's a quietly clever character study wrapped in kid-sized uniforms and humorous chaos, and it worked far better than it ever had any right to. A premise that should not have worked. Let's be honest. The idea of turning Jean-Luc Picard into a 12-year-old is exactly the kind of narrative that usually signals filler episode. It risks undermining the gravitas of one of sci-fi's most iconic captains, and adding Guinan, Ro Laren, and Keiko O'Brien to the transformation only amps up the absurdity. The shuttlecraft accident that de-ages them is barely explained technobabble, something about transporter patterns mixed with metamorphic energy. But TNG doesn't dwell on the mechanics. Instead, it dives into how these characters respond to their new circumstances. And that's where the episode finds its footing. Because beneath the surface-level weirdness is a surprisingly thoughtful exploration of identity. What makes a person themselves, their experiences, their memories, or their body? And that question anchors the entire episode. Picard, the captain who must become a child again. Patrick Stewart has always brought gravitas to Picard, but here he gets to explore the captain's internal conflict in an entirely new way. Instead of playing the situation for comedy, though the comedy is plenty, Stewart's young counterpart, David Tristan Birkin, perfectly captures Picard's poise, diction, and subtle intensity. But the real brilliance is in the writing. Picard's dilemma isn't just about being stuck in a young body. It's about how others treat him. How does a starship captain maintain authority when he can't even reach the top of his desk? How does he command respect when his crew instinctively sees him as a child? One of the episode's best scenes addresses this directly. Riker gently but firmly questions whether Picard can continue serving in command while physically de-aged. The conflict isn't dramatic or explosive, but it's deeply human. Two men navigating the boundaries between responsibility, hierarchy, and identity. Instead of becoming a joke, Picard's story becomes a meditation on how age shapes authority. Ro Laren's lost childhood. The emotional core. Of the four de-aged characters, none undergoes a deeper emotional journey than Ro Laren. Ro has always been one of TNG's most compelling recurring characters, rebellious, guarded, and shaped by trauma. Rascals gives her a chance to explore a missing part of her life. Childhood innocence. Michelle Forbes often played Ro with sharp edges, but young Ro, played by Megan Parlin, channels that same intensity while revealing vulnerability beneath it. When Guinan suggests they use their de-aged condition to experience the childhood Ro never got to have, it leads to the episode's most unexpectedly touching moment. At first, Ro resists. She clings to her adult identity as if losing it means losing control. But then she draws. She plays. She lets herself smile. The episode suddenly transforms from a goofy sci-fi gimmick into a quietly poignant exploration of healing. It's a moment that feels genuinely earned, and the show is better for it. Guinan. Wise as ever, no matter the age. Guinan is the secret glue holding this episode together. Even as a child, she still radiates the same quiet wisdom, the calm certainty that makes her such an enigmatic presence on the show. She's the one who recognizes the opportunity beneath the chaos. She sees that Ro's trauma can be eased. She helps Picard navigate the awkwardness of being respected intellectually but not physically. And she provides the levity the episode desperately needs. Young Guinan feels like a perfect echo of adult Guinan, playful, mysterious, and deeply intuitive. The writers resist the temptation to make her overly childish. She retains that essential Guinan-ness, which helps the entire story feel less like a gimmick and more like a genuine narrative opportunity. Keiko O'Brien and the strangest family dynamic in the series. Keiko's storyline is the part of the episode that edges closest to uncomfortable territory, but it manages to stay grounded thanks to Rosalind Chow's nuanced performance, mirrored effectively by her young counterpart, Caroline Junko King. Keiko waking up as a child while still married to Miles O'Brien creates an awkwardness the episode handles with surprising maturity. Instead of forcing humor, the story leans into emotional realism. Keiko mourns the loss of her adult life. She feels displaced in her own marriage. She can't be the mother she wants to be to Molly. This portion of the episode reveals an unexpected truth. De-aging isn't a silly inconvenience. It's a profound disruption to identity, relationships, and self-perception. Keiko's story grounds the narrative in emotional stakes, preventing it from floating away into pure comedy. The Ferengi hijack plot. Ridiculous but fun. If the de-aging premise wasn't already bizarre enough, Rascals doubles down by having the Enterprise taken over by a group of Ferengi who think they can sell the ship's children as slaves. On paper, this sounds like a disaster, a tonal clash between lighthearted body swap hijinks and dark implications. But bizarrely, it works. Why? Because the Ferengi are the perfect antagonists for this kind of story. They're threatening enough to create tension, but absurd enough to fit the episode's energy. Watching Picard, Ro, and Guinan sneak around the ship Home Alone style, outwitting the invaders, becomes a strange blend of charm and clever problem-solving. The kids communicate in code. They sabotage systems. They outsmart their captors with creative thinking that adult bodies might not have allowed. The episode uses their size and unpredictability as strategic advantages. It's silly, yes, but it's clever, and it's fun. Why Rascals works better than it should. This episode succeeds where so many "we turned our characters into X" storylines fail. And that success comes down to 3 reasons. 1, it never forgets who these characters are. Even as children, Picard is still Picard. Ro is still Ro. Guinan is still Guinan. The bodies have changed, but the personalities remain grounded in the actors' established performances. That consistency keeps the episode from drifting into parody. 2, it finds emotional truth in a ridiculous concept. Instead of letting the plot dominate, the writers embrace the emotional implications of de-aging. Childhood becomes a metaphor for vulnerability, for healing, for second chances. It's not just a story about shrinking uniforms. It's a story about identity. 3, it balances heart and humor. Few TNG episodes blend genuine character development with lighthearted fun as effectively as Rascals. It's self-aware without being mocking, heartfelt without being saccharine. That delicate balance is why it continues to resonate decades later. A strange little episode with lasting impact finds emotional truth in a ridiculous concept. Instead